Hello. Thank you for joining us here at the Junk to Jewels podcast with Georgette, Beck. I am so really pleased and excited to introduce Nicky Kruger with you. She's our guest today, and her heart's mission is to help people, especially women, find their value, not only find their value, but understand their value in God. And her favorite scripture is Romans 12:2. And I had the opportunity to check out some of her photos that she has taken. She is a powerful, strong woman of God, and I love her journey. She's from South Africa. I love that we get to meet, knocking over my mic. We get to meet people from all over the world here on this podcast. So you're going to enjoy her story. Let's get right to it. Welcome to the show, Nicky Kruger.
Okay, so yes, I'm from South Africa and I am a teacher, but I'm also an international life coach. I have a husband and 3 boys, and they are 16, 15, and 13 this year. So I always felt like I was worthless, and it wasn't like I was an atheist or anything. I just thought if there's a God, that he didn't want to do anything about me or had anything to do with me. So I always felt like I wasn't good enough, and also the Christians I came across never made me feel worthy of going to church. So I always felt like I wasn't good enough and I wasn't worthy. And because of my sense of worthlessness, I made a lot of bad decisions in my life. I married very young, and I was 21 when I got married the first time. And we had 2 children together, and we were both so broken that it ended. And then a year or 2 later, I met my second husband, and he was struggling with drug addiction and a lot of other addiction issues. And he was very abusive towards my 2 children, and it only became worse when I had a child with him. And he would favor his son, and my boys would ask, why does daddy only love this new baby? And so it was heartbreaking, and it was a very horrible time, filled with fear and torment. Like I used to, he worked away and then come home weekends, and when it's Friday, I'd start shivering because I was so scared of what he's going to do next to the children. And he used to sell everything in the house for drug money, and it was just horrible circumstances. So the one time we actually went to church, he said we should go, and I thought, I don't want to go to church, and he said no, we should go. And I felt very out of place, and especially him standing and worshiping, and I thought to myself, you're like this drug addict, and now you're pretending to be a Christian. So it felt so hypocritical. But in that church service, the minister and his wife, they actually shared the story of where they were each other's, they had an affair with other people, and they then got divorced, got together, and then they came to Christ and started this whole ministry and this beautiful church. And for the first time, I felt like, wow, these people admit to adultery in front of all these people. They don't feel shame or guilt, and they are just accepted and loved and admired. And so we didn't divorce immediately. It was a long path. I had to get him arrested for child abuse and get a protection order against him. And then when I got out, I went back to the church, and that's where my journey actually started. And I went through a divorce care group, and started to understand and got baptized and started my journey with the Lord. And I really found my worth in him. And by doing that, I could really while I I was just trying to like become a better person and like living for him. And a few years later, I met my husband, who's a godly man and wonderful with my children, and and I mean, like, he could get any wife he could. Like, in the church, there was a lot of ladies after him, but yeah, for some reason he wanted me. So, and yeah, which I think is a great testimony of God gives you more than you think you deserve. And yeah.
Nicky, thank you for sharing. So you have 3 lovely boys and a wonderful godly husband today. And in the beginning, you and I also struggled with the root of worthlessness. I too come from a background where I did not see or know my worth. I struggled with depression and did not feel worthy or value. I actually felt the unfavored one on, the odd one out, that kind of thing. And I also married very young. I found out later is because of the fear of abandonment, fear of loss of love, of any love we perceive. And I love your journey of healing and forgiveness. So your first husband, was he the one that turned abusive, or that was the second?
The second one, yes.
So you have had a long journey of survival and overcoming, and then you came to God. Divorce care is a wonderful ministry, and that's actually a ministry I met. Well, my husband, I'm in a second marriage, a second chance marriage as well. I had a rescue time, so I love what God did with you too. He rescued you and kept your boys, and he brought you to a church, a godly church, and from there you got help, and you were able to walk away from a very abusive situation, and God helped you with that. But divorce care, my husband and I now, in the past, we had ministered there for 7 years, and just so many hearts come in and dark and broken, and just to find life. And I'm so glad you found them. Can you talk a little bit more about your time at divorce care?
Yeah, sure. It was strange. Like, every week we dealt with something. It had something specific for that week for me. Like, when anger, there was issues with maintenance of my first husband, and there was angry issues, and with loneliness, I struggled with feeling very lonely. So every week of the divorce care, I could really feel God working with me specifically and trying to build my characters through every week session. Yeah, so it was very good. I actually did it a few times, and yeah.
I recommend that. A lot of our folks did too. And we actually, some folks, we stayed in touch forever. You become a little family in a small group because it is a very vulnerable space, and people start to trust each other and share. And we've actually had a few folks meet their second chance after or through the whole experience. But I'm so glad. How are your boys doing today?
No, they are very good. My husband and I have been married for 5 years, and so I could really see them like the stability, and having like the boring life is very good for them. Where they don't have to be scared or anything. So it's really been good for them, and yeah, they are very well.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So I remember too, when God first started speaking to my heart, and especially not knowing unconditional love, right? So you're used to people just judging or criticizing based on your outside, and then just accepting situations. I remember before my second chance guy came into my life, it took about 6 years for me, 6+ years, for all the layers of healing to occur, because God does it one thing at a time. He reveals truth and love to you in your heart, especially if you just don't see yourself and you just don't feel that. And I remember God taking care of my daughter and I couldn't explain how, but he took care of us. And then I messed up. I don't know if you ever had that experience where you were afraid. You just got all of a sudden this love that you never knew, and you were being taken care of and helped, and then you messed up, and I was like, this is over. God's going to stop helping me. God's going to leave. And that's when I really understood it. He won't. He did not abandon me, and he did not abandon you. And you share any of those moments where that kind of love, that unconditional love, is what really helped you look in the mirror and see the worth there?
Yes, no, definitely. Yeah. And like in my journey, before I got married again, so I was working and like towards God and doing a lot of reading the Bible. Actually, but I was very obsessive, so I spent a lot of time in my Bible. You can see all my stickers.
I love it.
So
I love the color code.
yeah, so and like moving closer to God, and I didn't realize, or I might have read Romans 12 verse 2 before, but I actually had like a conference or something, and one lady spoke about renewal of your mind, and that it's actually like a new science that they talked about. And so then it actually occurred to me, like, I wasn't actually trying to renew my mind, but God did by filling my heart and my mind with what he thinks of me. Is actually what renewed my mind and made me believe I'm worthy. So
Yeah, I love that. Me too. It was through my Bible, it's very thick, and I love it because I date things when a scripture comes alive, the rhema words, or a new truth, or when you're praying and you feel that scripture was your answer to the prayer or a faith promise. And I have my journey in my Bible. Like, you can see the different dates and the different prayers and the different heart wounds. Like, I was crying out in the middle of the morning, and I put, maybe the reason or the person or the thing. And it's so cool. And yeah, the Bible is his word to us. It's life. And it does restore your mind. It does. Like, it is a science. I would love to find, have people research on that and write it. I'm sure it's already out there, like you just said, but it does. There's something different that happens when we start reading through his Bible and learning the story and the history and all the peoples before us. It's a mystery, because I show up and I read Psalms, and it just does something. And I'm reminded of where he's taken us. So that means today's circumstances, there's help. And because he's already done so much, never mind for us, but for all the people before us. So how long have you been in this church family? Because that's another thing that in my journey, he used community to help me.
yes, so in that church, I spent. I think I was 3 years in that, and so I went to it's an English church, and my home language is actually Afrikaans. So then I moved to an Afrikaans church. But I've been there for the last 7 or so years, and that's also where I met my husband. And
That's awesome. Now, what is your language?
Afrikaans.
Afrikaans?
Yeah, so it sounds a lot like German.
Oh, wow. I love it. That's so weird. That's so interesting. What are your favorite books? Like, do you read different books that help your journey in transformation?
Yes, definitely. There are so many. I can't really think, but I'm also doing pastoral counselling courses. I've read some pretty nice books about the one I'm reading now is especially on teenagers and like working with teenagers and being a mom of a teenager. The book is Good Guys and Drama. I can't remember the name, but it's very good for like understanding the relationship between the parents and teenagers, how they long for it, and they don't show it. Like, they will be in their rooms on the screens. They don't show that they actually long for that connection. But so I'm trying to implement some of it. I started karate with my boys to get something to do together.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah. Community through the church, and community clubs and organizations around us. Yeah, definitely different ways to connect with the kids like that. I love that. And I love their transformation too. Because when we heal, they heal. And I love that we have the courage to show up for ourselves and ask for help. Did you experience that too in the very beginning? I was so embarrassed to share anything with anybody because I felt such shame. I felt like if anybody knows what I'm going through or what, it's like all my fault. Like I did it. It's all me. And that they would see that this. Did you feel that too, or?
Definitely. And I mean, I was 28 and getting divorced for the second time. So it was quite embarrassing. And so I also really wanted to make sure that I don't go through anything like that again. So I even though there were other men interested, whenever I felt like that it wasn't God, it felt like I was suffocating. So with my husband, I knew he was the one, and that God gave him. Yeah. So when with the other guys, I felt like no, suffocating all day would just there would be red flags and everything, and I was very clear on like listening to God's okay with choosing the next one because it should be the last one.
Yeah, I love that you described it as you felt suffocated as one of the signs, because if you're following God and you have, you are with him, he speaks to us. And I remember for me, it was, if I was asking too many questions, then no. And if it was like too hard, then no. But I love how if the air felt tight, no. But if it was like, I call it, Scott, when he came into my life, he's my husband, the flow. Each day just the next day, and it was just so peaceful, and you just journeyed along. So for those listening that are asking, is this person for me? Do you feel constricted? Do you feel like you don't have enough air in the relationship? That's a good one to go by.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So do you have something that you could share with those that are in abusive relationships, or in relationships where they're struggling with addictions, there's drugs or what have you, or chaos from those? What would you encourage someone to? How would you encourage them?
Yeah, I wouldn't like encourage people to get divorced. I would really take it as a last measure. But like I know people that are in narcissistic relationships, they are really trying to do the best, and some of them are getting like better result with the narcissistic person. But like going into a relationship, really like educate yourself on what are some of the narcissistic traits, because I think that's the biggest issue. They control you, and there's so many red signs or red flags that you can check that. I think educating yourself, and I did a lot of, like, when I say I educated myself, I watched Andy Stanley's Love, Sex and Dating, and I watched the local minister's relationships advice, and I really took all that into account whenever I met someone. How do they treat the waiter, or how do all those kind of things? So I really educated myself a lot on relationships because of the fear that I didn't want to go through another divorce, and really make a good decision. And when it comes to abuse, especially when your children, you must take action immediately. Like, even though I didn't take immediate action after the first time, but although I came out and my children had to go to therapy, and the therapist told me that even though you allowed it for a while, there's so much more resentment from the children's side if the parent never leaves. Some of them just like turns a blind eye and they just go. So, I would say with abuse, really get out.
Yeah. I love your courage. I love your heart. Courage in your heart. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, because, the podcast is called Junk Jewels. It doesn't mean we were junk. It just means there's times in our life like we just thought we were junk, and our situation and our heart, God can transform and heal and reveal the truth that we are worthy and beautiful and valued. And then when we live that, it passes down to our children, and they gain that truth and make the different decisions from that healthier place as we are making healthier choices. I love the fact that counseling was involved too. For me too, that was part of the journey, because when we're brave enough, other people have different information, and especially folks who have gone to college or university and gotten licensed. And there's some really good professionals out there that can lead you along your own questioning and guide you and provide a safe place to go deeper and look at the root causes of things. So a good counselor is a priceless. And yeah, if you don't feel a good fit with someone, there's another counselor. Find one that fits for you, right? That you can trust. And so how long have you been doing your international coaching?
For about a year. And yeah, I am teaching still. So I do the counseling and coaching at night. And yeah, it's now school holidays until next week. So yeah.
Isn't it fascinating how God brings our purpose alive and our calling, and he shows us our skill set, and he actually uses the junk to help people find their jewels, right? He used all that stuff and took all those tears and all those prayers, and he turned it into a beautiful blossom, right? And a harvest of good. I'm so excited. And you're at the beginning of a brand new life, a brand new season, right? I was at TCU. What are you teaching?
I'm teaching English at an Afrikaans school.
I love it. So, were you born in South Africa?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, so I love that. I know some folks that are in, I can't remember, South Africa as missionaries, and I don't remember the exact area, but yeah, they're there helping folks. So you have a favorite scripture?
Romans 12, verse 2.
Romans 12. So that's a good one to check out for sure. And unlike you two, there isn't, I had so many favorite books because so many books added another leg of journey of healing and another truth and another solid piece of wisdom that helped. I love it. If you were to meet someone today that was struggling where you once were, like what was one takeaway that you would say to them?
They should believe that they are worthy of God's love. They shouldn't be like even questioning their worth. And even though you did all this sin of wrongdoing or whatever, nothing can separate you from the love of God. And
that is so true. So yeah, if someone's watching or listening today, everyone's got a background and a story, but you are heard and seen. Just reach out and ask God to reveal himself to you, because God is very much there on the scene. He created all of us. It's a huge, beautiful mystery, but it's real. And unconditional love is rooted in God. And that's where we get our truth. And the Bible is fascinating. So besides Romans, do you have a favorite book of the Bible?
Well, it's actually a book about Romans 12. I think it's Ingram is the author, and he lays out the whole Romans 12 of how you should be a vessel for him. And so it's a good book.
It's hard to be vulnerable sometimes and open up. But I love the fact that I got to meet you, Nicky, and our fellow journeyman. So divorce care, those healing from divorce, it's a beautiful thing, or a broken relationship. Check it out in your community. It's very valid. And there are several divorce cares throughout the planet. Just check divorcecare.com and find a place near you. And it's a beautiful experience. So for sure. And Nicky had said counseling too helps. Your time with God, reading the Bible, getting into a spiritual community. Yeah. So Nicky, thank you so very much. Any last thoughts or words?
Just, always reach out if you are, don't be too scared to reach out to your local church. They can always help you.
Biggest one too, reaching out. Well, I hope you have a blessed day. And those listening and watching, thank you for joining us today on Junk to Jules podcast with Georgette Beck. And if you have a story you want to share too of overcoming or your own Junk to Jules a story, we'd love to meet you and chat and get to know it. And here's Nicky. Look her up, Nicky Kruger, Kruger. And yeah, touch base. Let us know what her story resonated with you with. If you have questions or concerns, let us know. We'd love to respond. Have a beautiful day. Nicky, thank you so much. And don't forget, if you're not following Georgette Beck on Facebook or Instagram, please go ahead and follow. And then please download this show and follow Junk to Jules podcast with Georgette Beck. We have several guests coming along to share their challenging moments and their inspiration. Thank you for listening and watching. Take care.